Welcome to the Darkstream. Voxday, voxday.blogspot.com, and Voxiversity. So tonight's episode we're entitling Jordanetics, the cultists strike back. And it's been very, very amusing to see what kind of response we're getting from the true believing Jordanologists. You know, it's been kind of fascinating to see what lengths these true believers will go to in order to cling to their preconceived notions and their image of Jordan Peterson. Now, I think that, it's pretty obvious that what upsets them more than anything is the level of open contempt that I and the producer show for Jordan Peterson. We don't think very much of him, and I suspect that that's pretty obvious when you watch the video. And it's true, I didn't have an opinion about the guy. I had no opinion about the guy whatsoever. I was vaguely aware of this Canadian professor. And, when he started blowing up, it was kind of like, okay, well, this is the guy who's filling the space, the void that was left by Milo's media orchestrated implosion. And that was pretty much the extent of it. I didn't think much of it. I'm some people that I knew, Stefan Molyneux, some others, John C. Wright, people I respect spoke well of him, but that's about as far as it went. I'm not into self-help stuff. I have resolutely ignored all self-help stuff dating back to the days of Tony Robbins and before. I frankly regard them as being, by and large, scams. I think that if you're going to help yourself, it's probably not going to come in the form of a book. It's probably not going to come in the form of a television show or a series of video lectures. Now, I understand that people feel that they are helped through reading these books, that they feel that they are improving their lives by seeing therapists and all these sort of things. But one thing I've noticed about people who go to therapists and people who read self-help books is that they never seem to get better. By which I mean, once somebody starts going to a therapist, they never seem to stop. When they start reading self-help books, if you see the kind of person who buys self-help books, what you tend to notice if you're at their house or if you're at their apartment is that they have a library full of self-help books. And so, this is why I've always been intrinsically dubious of people who rely upon this kind of stuff and these kind of people. And, when I see people who actually improve their lives, they tend to go to the gym. I've seen many, many people, start off as, either skinny little guys with spaghetti noodle arms who, have no confidence and get no attention from anyone, and seen them transform themselves over the period of 2 or 3 years. And you know, it's always kind of fun to see, you know, these guys come in and they're not really in shape. They're very out of shape. They're very lacking in self-confidence and that sort of thing. And then you just see them improve over time, you know, and then one day you see them walk in and, you know, they're there with their girlfriend, you know, who's, you know, more than moderately attractive or moderately attractive and stuff. And you know that their life has improved. And so you know, somebody just said, I really think most people use those self-help books to distract themselves from their real problems and to avoid making real changes. I think that is true as well. You know, when I look at the people that defend Jordan Peterson, the people who are enthusiastic about Jordan Peterson, the people who say Jordan Peterson has improved their lives, is I have to question just how bad their lives were, because they don't appear to be in a very good place. You know, they're certainly not very honest. I'm going to read you some of these comments, and I think you'll find them to be very interesting and very telling. I mean, these are just some of the, I'm not cherry picking anything here. I put some up on the blog, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just read some of the random ones that have come in recently. I mean, like just now. So, okay, you know, here is a fairly typical example. This is one of the much shorter ones. It's from a guy named Robert Lewis. Don't you like JP? Smoke and mirrors? Rubbish. If you are so clever, why are you not as successful? Because you're wrong. Maybe Jordan Peterson is more successful than I am at the moment, but, you know, until very recently, my games sold far more copies. My book sold far more copies than anything he did. You know, by the time that he was my age, you know, by the time Peterson was 50, I was much more successful than him. You know, I have my band has 4 Billboard Top 40 club chart hits. I've published, I think, 8 times more books than Peterson has. You can read the reviews. They're well regarded. My top-selling computer game sold over 6 million units. And so, you know, I'm not jealous of his success. I've had plenty of success, you know. And so, I mean, you want to compare success? Compare my wife to his. Mine's a hell of a lot hotter, you know. It's, you know, I'm not running around trying to keep myself from committing suicide. I'm happy. I'm mentally stable, you know. I love God, and, you know, I enjoy life, you know. Can Jordan Peterson really say the same? You know, and so, you know, the idea that I'm jealous of this guy who is running around trying to figure out how to keep from giving in to the despair that he feels over his fear of the end of the world. Why would anyone be jealous of that? And so let's deal with this. Is much more typical. You've seen probably a few of these here. This is from a Largesse 1000. Now bear with me, because this is the whole, this is, you know, the typical wall of text from the Peterson supporter. This is a very cringeworthy video. The editing is quite shocking and totally distracts from any points you choose to make. Yes, some of his many fans are deluded and seeking leadership, and he is frequently obscure. However, he has more than proved himself worthy of his current position. It is simply not true to say that his elevation has been born through adulation. I didn't say that. His elevation was because he's a creature. He's a creature of the globalists. He has been made in opposition to great criticism. A lesser person, you for instance, would have crumpled after a few months. That's kind of funny. I have been the I've been the target of considerably more criticism than Peterson has over the past 20 years. To put it in perspective, one of my first columns, or not, in the first year I was a nationally syndicated columnist, I was email bombed by the Council on American Islamic Relations and received over 120 death threats. I very much doubt that Peterson has ever faced any sort of pressure like that. He has balls. That's the first thing. Next, for his simple referencing of Solzhenitsyn, Frankl, and Dostoevsky to a new generation, he is to be greatly commended. No, Aristotle and other greats are not mentioned, so fucking what? He was not writing a treatise on Western thought, just a string of ideas. Clearly this guy has not read Maps of Meaning. Finally, his central message is very simple, namely, life is hard if you live it, and suffering is always present. This is the core idea of Christianity and Buddhism and exists because it is true. This is liberating to many who have been told that perfection is a goal, happiness is achievable, and self-worth is defined by how many bucket items you tick off. He has simply reinstated a core experience of life and articulated it in a way that people can understand. It has transformed people's lives, whether you find them phony or not. No one has managed to do this for about 70 years, no one. Really. Therapists, gurus, and even traditions, religion has failed in this, and it took an obscure professor from Canada to do this. You have been accused of jealously, and that accusation stands. The hatchet job here is quite pathetic since you just pick away at trivia. I have stated clear arguments above, which demonstrate very simply that he has done a good thing by introducing just a few core ideas, complexity of life, suffering, personal responsibility, and the importance of the individual to the West. To criticize this is pure madness, and articulate as you are, your words are completely hollow. I suggest, without respect, you shut the fuck up or actually comment on the positive contributions of this man over the last 3 years. I will now watch your channel and comment increasingly if I deem it fit. There's our gamma confirmation. Some may read my thoughts. Some of us are sick of opinionated little clever shits who do fuck all in the real world while assuming some sense of superiority in the digital. Ultimately, it has no meaning. Peterson has let it all hang out. He has demonstrated integrity and seeks the good. He is not perfect, will be ephemeral, and be followed by some sheep. However, give the man his due. You are jealous, and it is a very unpleasant character trait. I gain nothing from this video except the urge to come around your house and smash your fucking PC up. Now go be a good chap, go have a wank, and take your hot chocolate. Talk about screaming gamma. Okay, you know, these guys are utter and complete losers. Okay, all Peterson fans are losers. That's, you know, there's literally no way around this. Everybody that I know who is a big fan of Peterson is, you know, a loser in some way. You know, there's sometimes they're smart, sometimes they're talented, whatever, but all of them are fundamentally people who find it difficult to function in the world. And so, you know, for whatever reason, Peterson is doing what is described in the Bible as tickling their ears. He makes them feel better about themselves. And you know, what people don't seem to understand is that is not necessarily a good thing. Okay? If you want to feel better about yourself, do cocaine. You will feel better. I guarantee it. It's not going to improve your life. It is not going to fix your problems. It is not going to change you for the better. And it's not going to make you a better man. But you will feel better. Absolutely. And, you know, I think that for a certain type of failed individual, Peterson is like a cocaine rush. Now, I don't know why. I don't understand it. But, you know, I'm a stable, happy person who is not wallowing in my own misery and pain. And so I can understand somebody is quoting me in quotes, do cocaine, Vox. You've never listened to Psychosonic, have you? It was kind of funny. Someone once said something about how they said, you know, I listened to your band, I listened to your music, and it really struck me that a lot of your songs were either about technology or chemicals. I was like, we're a 90s techno rave band, okay? I mean, the entire thing is about chemicals, you know. I mean, my apologies if you didn't know this about me, but you know, that's my background. It's what it is. Obviously, I don't necessarily recommend that. I mean, I don't recommend that way of life now, but you know, when you're in your early, this is why you should not listen to people who are in their early 20s. You know, their philosophy tends to be short-sighted, shall we say? I mean, it was kind of funny. We gave I remember we gave Christmas shirts to everybody, and they had these very esoteric lyrics on the back, and on the front it said in big letters, "Just say N2O." And it was kind of funny because you know, this was out, you know, people still remembered Nancy Reagan in the 80s by this point. And so I remember my some older relative might say, "Oh, just say no. That's great." Like, yeah, it doesn't say that. But anyhow, yeah, exactly. So, but the point is that, you know, somebody said Peterson recommends SSRIs, Vox Day recommends cocaine. Who would you trust? Look, I will tell you this right now. I will recommend cocaine over SSRIs every single time. Okay? I mean, SSRIs absolutely mess with your head. I mean, you just look at what happens to the people who take them, you know, and you realize that that's just a terrible idea. You know, it's actually worse than Jordanetics. So anyhow, let's see. So let's see. I'm going to check my email now, and these are like the emails that are like, these are the comments that are being made on the Vox Diversity video right now. You know, this is not hypothetical stuff. This is stuff that people are actively saying and commenting on. And let me grab another couple here. So far, there have been nearly 10,000 views of the video directly, and then there's another, you know, 4,000 or 5,000 on the Darkstream and other thing. But check this out. What's interesting is there's not even 10,000 views, but there's already 500 comments. And so what this is the butthurt Peterson cultists, you know, reacting about this stuff. And so, like, here we go. Let's go to, I gotta go to the newest ones, because, okay. So let's see here. Okay. Oh, no, see, some of them are positive. Excellent video. Peterson is just another lefty charlatan desperately trying to save globalism before the God Emperor totally destroys it. Thank you, Vox Day. See, if you notice, the people who like the video are sane. They just, they just say basically make a point or two, and that's it. Here's one from somebody named Jai Watkins. This is a chopped and edited video aimed to portray Dr. Peterson as a mentally unstable intellectual. First of all, he is mentally unstable. That's why he takes drugs. And secondly, he's an intellectual charlatan. He's not an actual intellectual. 100% untrue and disingenuous. What's hilarious about this video, and this is also a key gamma indicator. They always say hilarious, funny, I'm laughing out loud, laughing my fucking ass off, blah, blah, blah. They're not laughing at all. They're angry. Is the image you've now painted of yourself. Ooh, totally turning it around, you see. Not only does this video make you look extremely dumb and close-minded, you've shown all of your subscribers that your content is not trustworthy nor truthful. It's merely clickbait and a tool to recruit like-minded thinkers that hold only your collective opinions. Your entire video holds no scientific validity and only subjective opinion. I'm kind of curious what this guy thinks science would prove about Jordan Peterson. What does science and scientific validity have to do with the actions of a single individual? Honestly, though, if you took the step forward to recognize that maybe your opinions are flawed, maybe your image of this modern life-changing intellectual is misguided, and maybe you've intentionally misrepresented Dr. Peterson for your own dishonest profit, will you provide any beneficial content on YouTube? Actually, that's a statement. There's no question mark. I can't believe there are still people on this planet with the audacity to completely neglect truth if it's taking over their place of comfort. Not every truth is good, but it's better to know what is right than live in denial and fiction. Now, that's incredibly ironic, considering he says he watched the video. I mean, but facts are not necessarily true, and truth is whatever promotes life. It's like this is so typical of Jordan Peterson fans. They literally have no idea what the guy actually says. Do you want to develop as a human race and progress as a species to find out our origins? Or are you simply not capable of recognizing that you're obstructing it? Okay, so this is a Jordan Peterson fan appealing to the development of the human race, which is a very collective thing, which is completely contradictory to Peterson's entire babbling about how you must be totally individual and never do anything as a collective ever. Let's see, here's another one. I appreciate that Jordan Peterson has his flaws, but the idea that everything he says is pure drivel clearly demonstrates that you are not paying attention to what he is saying. To the contrary, if you pay attention, then you see that everything he says is pure drivel. Truthful speech helps slow down the propagation of lies which generated some of the most evil hierarchies in history. By telling the truth, we see ourselves as beings rising, transcending the pathological systems. Again, these people keep appealing to truth, and they don't seem to realize that Peterson doesn't even accept that facts are true. Peterson doesn't accept that truth is objective. This one's actually, this one is amusing. The amount of people that agree with this video is worrying. And let's see. Yeah, right now the thumbs up at 453 still outnumber the thumbs down at 406. I would expect that ratio to change eventually, but it is what it is. This is a good point. Peterson had a patient living with him, and under his therapy for a couple of years, the guy committed suicide. Great therapy, Jordan. Yeah, to be honest, it will not surprise me if Jordan Peterson commits suicide in the next 3 to 5 years. It wouldn't surprise me in the slightest. The guy is open about talking about how he's a fame whore, how he is always in terror that he's going to make a mistake and everything's going to fall apart. And, and this is the sort of person who, when they break, they can't handle it. And so, Somebody says, I'm very worried this what Vox is reading. I had no idea that Peterson causes people to react to criticism like that. They do, you know. And so, Peterson is, intentionally or not, and I do believe it is intentional, he is creating a cult around himself because he has a messianic complex. He believes that he and only he can save the world from nuclear destruction and apocalypse through nationalism. And so that's what all of this comes back to. And that's why I say again and again that Peterson is totally fucking crazy. He is. If I were to tell you, only I can save the world, only I have an idea that nobody else has ever had, and it will save the world as long as everybody listens to me, what would you say? What conclusion would you reach? Okay? If I spent over 10 years writing a book that I believed, that I told people was going to be the answer to save the human race from the apocalypse, what would you tell me? What would you think about my sanity? You would think I was crazy, and you would be right to do so. And so the way that Peterson talks, the way that and Peterson's goals are very, very similar to some of the goals that we have seen in cult leaders of the past. Somebody said that's like the dictionary definition of delusion of grandeur. It is. And Peterson fans don't realize this because they have no idea what he's trying to do. They have no idea what he's trying to accomplish. And what I am telling you is exactly what Peterson told his own father were his beliefs about himself and his objectives. And so I am not exaggerating. I am not I'm not utilizing rhetoric here. I am telling you the guy is totally fucking crazy. There's no two ways around it. And to run around saying, well, he's helping people, he makes them feel better. You can say that about the Bhagwan guru. You can say that about every cult leader in history. And so, I'm sure that people who belong to the People's Temple, who followed Jim Jones to Guyana, believed that he was helping them too. And then they literally drank the Kool-Aid. And so, what I am attempting to do is to help those who do not have sufficient information or who do not have sufficient cognitive capacity to see through Jordan Peterson's web of baffle garble, to understand what the man's accomplished, what the man's goals are, what his objectives are, and how totally freaking crazy they are. You should not want to be a part of any of this. When I was reading Maps of Meaning, it was very, very clear to me that this was somebody who was nuts. I've talked to people who were nuts before, and the difference is that Peterson is smart. He's generally smart, and he has created a very complicated mental infrastructure to allow him to function on a day-to-day basis. But this is not somebody who is mentally stable. This is not someone who is, by the strict definition, sane. Okay? Jordan Peterson is literally insane. And if you listen to him, and if you try to follow the path that he presents you, it will lead you into more trouble. It will lead you into a worse situation than you're in already, regardless of whether you feel that it's leading you to a better one. Okay? I mean, at some point, and this is when the whole thing is probably going to break down. At some point, these Peterson fans are going to realize that even though they felt better, they're still lonely, they're still unloved, they're still out of shape, they still haven't achieved any of their goals or objectives, and they're going to realize that there was nothing there from the start. And then they're going to get very, very angry. You know, right now, they're lashing out at people like me. And I am far from the only intelligent critic of Jordan Peterson. You know, anybody with a sufficient intellect understands that Peterson's full of shit. You know, Milo Yiannopoulos, who is, you know, for all of his flamboyance, is actually quite intelligent and is very quick-witted. You know, he told Stefan Molyneux, I've read this stuff and it doesn't make sense. And he's right. It doesn't. It's incoherent. It's intrinsically self-contradictory, and it is inconsistent, and it's incoherent. So, let's see. And they won't even have actually cleaned their rooms. Probably not. So are you saying that you can save those people that Jordan can't? No, I'm not. I can't save anyone. All I can do is tell you that Jesus can change your life. I have seen Jesus change people's lives. Part of why I became a Christian is because I saw the material changes that happened in some people's lives around me. And I was like, what the hell happened to them? And, you know, I found, you know, my friend said, yeah, so I kind of became a Christian. I was like, what? How did that happen? He said, well, if you ever got up before noon, then you would know that I've been going to church for the past 9 months. But, you know, that's just, you know, if you want to improve your life, then what I would say, start reading the New Testament and go to the gym. Cutting down your carbohydrates would not be a bad idea. You do those 3 things and you will change your life far more dramatically than spending your days watching Jordan Peterson videos and you know, reading and rereading the 12 Rules for Life. Let's see. Heard an awful lot of Jesus was a pacifist commie. Well, that's not true. You know, so, you know, people can say whatever they want, but it's absolutely not true. It should be pretty obvious since, you know, communism was invented in the, early 19th century. Have you heard of the Oath Keepers Initiative to train right-wingers to provide security at events? Yeah, the Oath Keepers are not what the right needs. They're often termed the Oath Cuckers, and it's true. The Oath Keepers are not nationalists. They're civic nationalists. They're probably more they're not the main problem, but they're probably on the side of the people with the problems. So keep that in mind. Let's see. Good recommendation on Ages of Discord. It is an interesting book. I don't believe the whole higher IQ people are messier garbage. I view that as a subversive talking point. Yeah, I don't think it's true either. You said you couldn't save people, but you were giving advice that you say will help people. Contradiction? Okay, Gamma Boy. No, it's not a contradiction. Don't try to get pedantic with me. If you were intelligent enough or honest enough, then you would understand that giving advice that will help people is not saving them. Okay? Saving a person is very, very different than giving them some information that may or may not prove useful to them should they choose to take it. Don't get pedantic with me. Don't try to correct me. And don't try to play gotcha games with me. It will not work. I am more intelligent than you are. Let's see here. Would you recommend reading the Old Testament first? No, I think that you should begin with the New Testament. You cannot, the Old Testament makes little sense in the Christian perspective until you have a good grasp of what Christianity is. Christianity is not Judaism. Christianity is not the Hebrew law. And so you need to understand it first. I have not read Days of Rage. You said to read old history books. Any specific titles? Go to the Castalia Books Direct. There is it says History Collection. Click on that. That's where my recommendations are. I'd like to second the idea of doing a Darkstream on Christianity versus globalism. That is a good idea. And let's see here. Priests here in Finland are converting Afghans and other migrants to Christianity, so they Christianity has a huge problem. Christianity, like the Republican Party and like many, many organizations, has been invaded and converged. Okay, just because an institution calls itself Christian does not mean that they are genuinely devoted to Jesus Christ. It doesn't even mean that they believe Jesus existed. Okay, it's very important to learn to discern the difference between genuine Christians and churchians who call themselves Christians. I realize this is difficult, especially if you're not a Christian at all, but nevertheless, it's important. Let's see here. So anyhow, before we go, I should mention we have a new comic out. It's actually #1 in horror, and I think #2 in mystery, suspense, and thriller. It's Gun Ghoul #2. It continues the Gun Ghoul story that we introduced last week. It's doing very well. The reviews are great, and I would encourage you to check it out. If you want to support what we're doing, obviously you can subscribe to Voxiversity and the Darkstream. We have a whole range of monthly subscriptions. But another way that you can do it is to simply support what we're doing with Castalia House, with Archaven Comics, and with Dark Legion Comics. So thanks for tuning in, and I'll look forward to seeing you at the next Darkstream. Have a good evening.